Hey, welcome to Food News and Chews, and today we're going to find out about stretching meat.
And Sylvia's going to throw dog food all through every episode.
Dog food.
That's right.
Stay tuned, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, we actually have 6th generation cattle farmer Trent Loos on. We're going to be talking about the drought. Huge issues for guys in the Midwest and also the rest of the world because food production is actually low or higher in terms of cost, but lower in terms of production. Then I've got a really nice cooking segment. We're going to learn how to stretch our meat with a version of tacos. We're going to use orange and buttermilk and red onions. Should be nice and tasty. And then Sylvia's got some fun food news for us also.
Yeah, that's right. And we'll be right back with Food News and Chews.
Today's shoppers are informed. When shopping for the family meal, today's shopper chooses Critchfield Meats for fresh, all-natural quality meats guaranteed. Make the right choice and visit our family before you feed yours. Critchfield Meats, the meat specialist, family owned and operated since 1969. That's a grade A choice, folks.
From concessions to festivals, bingo halls to daycare facilities, Seaworth Superstore is Kentucky's largest dealer for all your weekend kitchen or mobile kitchen supply needs. From popcorn to snow cone machines, we have the largest selection of new and used equipment with warranties to help keep your mobile food truck or weekend event going strong. That's Seaworth Superstore for Sales Road, Lexington. That's Seaworth Superstore, putting the Kentucky workforce back to work.
Why do chefs choose Lyons Farm beef?
It's consistent, it's delicious, it's got great tenderness, and it's really good for you. This nutritional element of making healthy animals for healthy eating is a big component about why their beef is so delicious. I feel so lucky to be a chef in Kentucky because the best way to express care for someone is to make them something to eat, and I get to do that every single day.
Lyons Farm beef, available at Critchfield Meats and lyonsfarm.com.
Welcome back to Food News and Chews, and we're here at Dinger's.
Yes, our patio and grill.
Yeah, we're here.
Kentucky.
And Jeremy, as you announced earlier, we're going to do an interview with Trent Loos, the ultimate cowboy.
Yes.
Talking about drought today, and that's all that's going on. But you're doing something else here as we get into food news. We're going to let people watch us cook.
Yeah, since we're doing something on the drought, we have to learn how to stretch our meat because there's going to be a shortage, right? So
that's right.
I'm going to go ahead and
about
put some green tomatoes and peppers on for some tacos we're going to make.
Yummy.
But anyway, olive oil, salt, pepper on green tomatoes and a jalapeno.
There you go.
Throw those right on the grill.
This hot grill.
We're going to let these char up while we talk some food topics, right, Sylvia?
All right. Let's talk about some food news, and let's talk about some things related to drought because that's really a big issue. Now, here in central Kentucky, we don't have a drought, do we? We're like 5 inches above for the year, but that doesn't necessarily mean the drought has been erased in the Midwest. And what Trent is going to talk to us about is that impact on cattle and prices, because farmers are basically selling off all their stuff,
right, and
all their critters.
This came from the 2012 drought, which we're really starting to feel the heat now.
Yeah. And maybe too little too late.
The price of this is way up.
Yeah, way up, so that's a big issue. But I thought, they say that because of whatever you want to say, climate change or whatever, that we're going to have, and we just not too long ago lost tragically 19 firefighters in a fire in Arizona, that we're going to get hotter and more stormier and thus more fire hazards in the forests of the West, particularly they're baking there. But in South Dakota, the extreme heat or the extreme drought has actually lessened. Moderate is still up, so we're still having issues and all of that sort of thing. But as a result of that, Jeremy, one of the things we want to talk about is the new kind of way of looking at food. And is that a grasshopper wing in your teeth?
I'm not into
eating
eating insects yet, no.
Okay, so we're going to be eating more bugs, according to one news story.
I hope not.
And horse meat, the first horse meat butchering facility is about to open in New Mexico. They just got an approval.
And that's going to be a huge thing for Americans to actually palate too. I don't know if that's really, and also, Sylvia, does that really, that's also meat as well. You have to raise a horse, feed a horse before you slaughter a horse. It's the same thing as cows and chickens,
We're going to have to stretch our meat.
Yeah, and and stretching your meat is a big, also it doesn't have to do with just irrigation. Didn't we learn a lot about irrigation over the drought?
We did, and a lot of hydroponics, doing
Right.
less water.
Using less water to produce food.
So that's going to be a big thing. But
Yeah.
we're not eating dogs yet, but I thought maybe you might like to mix in some dog food.
I'm going to eat some tacos. I haven't got to that point yet, so no dog food for me.
Anyway, little nuggets of dog food. That's amazing what I carry around. You never know. Another really, algae. We should talk about that because Dr. Pierce Lyons with Alltech did a phenomenal editorial in the Sunday newspaper, or yesterday's newspaper. It was Monday. And not yesterday's because we're actually showing this later, but anyway. What he talked about was the algae plant. And the algae plant is going to, and the algae are like these little tiny things.
Sure.
That like biological things, I don't even know how to say it, but they're actually going to be feeding us into the future, and that's another way to stretch food. And Dr. Lyons and Alltech,
And
right
also
here
be
in
used
Central
for
Kentucky.
fuels, I think is a big issue as
Yeah,
well.
and we
which
learned about that in
hopefully will come down
biofuels.
on other production costs, different ways to use biofuels, which will help when it comes to producing food energy costs.
Yeah, that's right. And Dr. Lyons and the symposium was awesome. We learned a lot about that. That plant is in Winchester, by the way, for processing algae in the wave of the future. Now, there's another interesting story. The matzo bread is the unleavened bread that the Orthodox Jewish faith eats during Passover. They have actually found a use for the drought because they've looked for the driest place in the U.S. to grow the wheat so that it will not, the bread won't rise as a result of.
Oh, I see. So it's
unleavened.
unleavened, right? And also they have to have it completely pure.
Yeah, so they guard these fields.
Yeah, I think so. I don't want any kind of contamination to ruin their religious beliefs. The fact that they have to eat something pure, and so I guess people are watching it, making sure there's no other
Yeah, they
chemicals or
actually
additives.
literally- these are New York
because
City.
there's been all kinds of crazy stuff put in your food because of the drought. Whether it's feeding candy to cows, or maybe additives to anything to make things grow quicker because there's no water.
There's no water. So anyway, lots of interesting things with the drought. It's not gone away, despite the fact that the bluegrass area is very lush. Just one more thing on Chickens Magazine. I haven't done my chickens report recently. Now here's the headline, Jeremy, for the July-August issue. Preparation H, as in hen, love that. How to heal a prolapsed oviduct. Did you know how to do that? Or why you
We don't learn that in culinary school. We don't learn how to heal them
You better
at
go back
all.
to school, how to use these dog food nuggets. Anyway, we're going to be back with Trent Loos.
Yes.
And then we're going to have this delicious taco meal that you're going to prepare.
Exactly. We're going to stretch out the meat because we don't have much of it.
Yeah.
We're going to stretch it out and make tacos, which will feed a feast or a family or lots of people. So.
Whatever. We'll be back with Trent Loos in an interview here in a moment with Food News and Chews.
Hello, my name is Bob. Recently, I switched my business phone service to Glow Telecom. Now I'm saving over 50% on my monthly phone bills, over $2,000 a year. And I have a PBX phone system that would have cost me over $10,000. Unlimited calling to the US and Canada with no long distance charges. If you want to put money back in your wallet, call Glow Telecom today.
Call Glow Telecom at 888-428-0984. 888-428-0984. From concessions to festivals, bingo halls to daycare facilities, Seaworth Superstore is Kentucky's largest dealer for all your weekend kitchen or mobile kitchen supply needs. From popcorn to snow cone machines, we have the largest selection of new and used equipment with warranties to help keep your mobile food truck or weekend event going strong. That's Seaworth Superstore for Sales Road, Lexington. That's Seaworth Superstore, putting the Kentucky workforce back to work.
Worldly influenced, locally inspired. Azure Restaurant and Patio, contemporary fine dining in a relaxed atmosphere right here in Lexington. Modern award-winning dishes with a distinctive Kentucky twist from the mind of nationally recognized chef Jeremy Ashby. Voted best fine dining in Lexington. Azure is chef-created, chef-driven, and Kentucky proud since day one. Taste something unique at Azure Restaurant and Patio, Beaumont Center in Lexington. And see Chef Jeremy Ashby and Sylvia Lovely on the Food News and Chews, Sunday night at 11 on Fox 56.
Welcome to Food News and Chews, and we have a guest that we've had before, And I love this guy. He's the Wyatt Earp of the modern era of food, whatever
right.
that means. I think
Mr.
Wyatt was into more of imbibing stuff than cattle rancher.
And
But
gambling
anyway.
and shooting, right? But this guy is
He's a problem
tails.
solver.
a 6th-generation cattle
true.
farmer. Trent Loos.
Yeah.
Amazing. He's got Loose Tails on the radio. I've been
He's
checking it
famous.
out over the past year since I
He's
met him.
hot.
Have you really?
I have been, and
Yeah, we check you out, buddy.
yeah, I've actually run into him 2 or 3 times now. He comes to Lexington very often for
Yeah.
All Tech, especially Symposium, to find out all the current trends and especially the how corporations are dealing with perception of food.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things that after knowing you for about the last year and keeping in touch with you, one of the things that's really starting to occur to me and Jeremy, I know we're a farm-to-table kind of restaurant and local is important, but as we get more confused out there, you know, you're sort of a confusing guy. Is that nice
Oh,
to
not
say?
at all.
But anyway, here you don't fit
Well, I
a
wouldn't
niche.
want to be predictable.
You don't fit a niche. You're a 6th-generation cattle farmer.
Yeah.
And then you're also into taking care of your animals and that sort of thing. But you're not like in the locavore category in that you don't hate corporations and you're not anti-technology. Who are you, Trent Loos?
Well, I'm Trent Loos, 6th generation United States rancher, period.
Yeah. And what does
But-
that mean, though,
Well,
for
that
like...
means that we need to really get in touch with the land and the livestock. And that we need to do, which is the whole concept of the symposium at Alltech, is to produce more with less.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to back up and say, how do we define local? To me, it's pretty easy. If it's grown in the United States, it's local. 3 weeks ago, I was 50 miles south of Los Angeles on a strawberry farm, and I've got a great picture. I should have sent you the picture. We can get you the picture. And they're picking strawberries, they're putting them on a cart, and they're putting them on a truck. And those strawberries were going to go to Anaheim that night and be flown to New York City and consumed tomorrow.
Fresh, right.
You can't get more fresh than that. So now, I want to back up, Jeremy, just quickly to say, while I think that it's local is domestic if it's grown in the United States, but I also think that if you can buy local for an economic reason, that's always a benefit.
And there's a lot to that too. You know, I think the whole term local now is actually becoming replaced with, in a lot of different facets, the term regional. You know, some of the extreme locavores are actually kind of realizing, okay, well, I can't really survive all year long on certain things in certain part of the area. So regionality is kind of taking over, and also we're kind of realizing what it takes to actually, you know, feed a large population. So, you know, and also economic standpoint, if you do fly a bushel of strawberries across the nation, sometimes that is more,
Yeah, it can't even
the
be,
environmental impact might be less than,
transportation
say,
costs,
It
you
is,
know,
because take eggs, for example, because
Yeah.
we've got great statistics. A semi hauls 28,000 dozen eggs.
28,000.
Yeah, think of that, how many.
So
yeah.
you put that many eggs
Yeah.
on a truck and you deliver them to a centralized point. The transportation and the big picture is minuscule.
Yeah.
In fact, someone driving from Lexington 30 miles out to a farm
to get a dozen.
to get a
eggs,
dozen eggs
Well-
is a greater impact. But you know, all of that I think just is noise,
Yeah.
and we need to celebrate what we have as American citizens. We're here with people from 80 countries,
Yeah.
and every one of them pay at least twice as much for food on a per capita basis as we do. We should be celebrating that and what got us to that point.
Well, the producers are getting a little irritated by this sort of local mentality, and
Well,
that came out yesterday in our branding seminar.
That's part of the noise too. And what are the, you know, the public has a perception too, because they usually get bombarded from media aspects about things that are happening or put into their food.
And
And
sometimes
nobody
it's-
really understands, and I just don't know how
Yeah,
the
and
the
that's
large
confusion.
suppliers are actually dealing with those marketing campaigns, or how they explain themselves, or if it's even intentional. There's a lot of confusion out there for what
I think
what-
that's one of the things that we would like to figure out. How do you do that? How do you? And I think people, the most optimistic view is people are starting to ask better questions.
They are. 13 years ago, I started doing television, radio, and media work because I didn't think people knew enough about their
Yeah,
food.
that's right, and that's one way you do it,
Today,
social media.
I think they know too much about their food.
They know too much.
Because too much
they
of what
get
they know
cycled into-
isn't so.
They get
And
so
so-
focused in
right.
on one little thing.
And we're better off not knowing than being misinformed.
Yeah, misinformed.
So re-educating
Not
is
that
a
it's
tough
not
deal.
good to know your farmer or support your
No,
guys
that,
down across the
Sure.
road.
that never
But
comes
that
out of the
doesn't necessarily
equation.
translate
Knowing the
into-
farmer,
yeah.
that's been my whole premise, is putting a face on the farmer, and that's why I have Faces of Ag.
Right.
Yeah,
That seems to be
yeah.
local on my aspect. Is it falls into my lap because I've got such a good relationship with my core people that
And you know them
they come,
well.
they bring it to me, I go see them, and,
Right, it's
and,
about
and
the
that's
people.
really what I feel comfortable doing.
Let me ask you what you think of that little vignette that Pierce Lyons showed in his opening session. Paul Harvey, a farmer. There was controversy
God made a
over that.
farmer.
God
Yeah, that
made a
was-
farmer, but a lot of people thought that was really kind
was
of
neat.
overdone. Now, I heard a lot of criticism of it on the internet and stuff. What do you think about it? Was that good? It evoked an image like every farmer is like
It
well
was-
worn, and there is a big
was.
corporate farm too. Concept.
It had a good message. It did not portray modern food production,
Yeah,
where we're at today. I was concerned about it because people don't know who Paul Harvey was and what he did
Oh, that's
in the
true,
last
too.
20 years of his
Yeah.
life.
Oh, yeah.
He brought the animal rights message to mainstream media.
Okay.
And had it not been for Paul Harvey, we wouldn't deal with a lot of the things we deal with today in the
Again,
from the animal rights
mainstream
community.
media.
And that was because his son, Paul Harvey Jr., took over the production of the show, and Paul Harvey just sat down and read it. But we lose sight of those things, and we tend to forget.
More complex.
But the message was good. It did not portray where we're at today. It was more of a nostalgic romance.
It was, and a lot of people thought
But the
it was
ag community loved it because they saw themselves,
themselves
in
in
those
it.
ads.
I just like how it kind of created that awareness, kind of
Yeah.
put it
Yeah,
out
and it
there.
raises the level of
made everybody
conversation.
kind of think from
And
it.
here's what I said. It was a tool,
Yeah.
and it opened dialogue. Whether the dialogue is good or
right.
bad, it
The
doesn't matter.
conversation started.
Bloomberg
It-
did too.
Well,
let's
we
talk-
could have that dialogue if you
I
like.
bet that's for another edition. How about tomatoes from Mexico? I just have to ask you. You said domestic. is
Domestic,
local.
United States.
But what about if you're from Mexico and you sell tomatoes? Is that bad?
No, not at all.
Okay.
It-
All right.
and
You're just defining local. If you want local,
if you want, I think
but you're not opposed to.
I'm not opposed.
anything as long
no,
as it is
because
done well.
there's a nutritional value in eating you don't eat Mexico, eating tomatoes 52 weeks a year.
Yeah.
And if you
Bananas,
can't get
yeah.
them from the United States, I would rather have tomatoes from Mexico than not have tomatoes.
Yeah, and the bananas. You do banana desserts.
Everybody eats bananas all year
Let's talk
round.
about the drought. Tell us about the drought.
The drought
suffering
in
in
the
the Midwest.
Great Plains has been significant. The farther south, Texas, Oklahoma, it's been a serious number of years. Right in the middle of the Great Plains, where I live in Nebraska, we had the worst year ever last year. We're this year caught up, but our supplies of feed
Yeah.
and forages are so low that over such a large region that I'm really concerned. Not just about the economic benefit of the farmer, I'm concerned about the infrastructure of the beef industry. And in fact, I'm going to make a statement that I would have thought I never would make. If we don't rely and import more beef in 2013 than we ever have, we're all going to be in trouble when it comes to access to beef.
Wow.
Because
and
we're
affordability?
we're that short on beef supplies. We heard at this meeting, one of the major hamburger fast food restaurants is going to begin to blend pork 50% into their
50%.
50%
I mean, so this is
into their burgers.
drastically serious.
The infrastructure is at risk,
Yeah.
and it's really a direct result of the drought. I've personally had the worst year in my life.
How long do you think it would take to really, down the pipeline, catch this production back up?
5
Just
years.
5 years to really
Minimum.
pull the grain back together?
Well, what we've had happen is we've had a record low number of breeding animals. And you don't breed a cow, they don't calve until they're 2 years old. So you have to, number one, breed and start retaining those females, those cows, back into the herd, breed them, and then once you breed them, you're a year from 9 months from them calving, and then you're another 2 years from that beef being available on the marketplace. So once you start, the first impact will be felt at 5 years.
Cascading. Yeah, oh man.
Now, has the industry learned anything from this drought? Not that you can do anything about a drought, but is there other ways to combat this or to help
Yeah, what can we
production?
do?
You say
The
buy beef
aquifer.
from non-domestic sources, right?
Right.
Big news on this drought.
When mitigate and try to deal with everything except Mother Nature.
Yeah.
And when it's Mother Nature driving the ship, here's the long term, if we survive and maintain the infrastructure, we'll be better off in the global marketplace because we'll learn to be more efficient and we'll be, it continue
water
anytime,
better and
right.
all of that.
Because we haven't said your favorite word yet, the Ogallala Aquifer.
Ogallala.
You guys have been saying this.
Lonesome Duck.
It's the largest,
it's
it's
in
the
the news the other
largest
day.
underground water lake reserve in the world. And it's all under Nebraska. It's from Texas to a little bit in South Dakota. And it is at historic lows in terms of water access.
Or drawing on it. So water's going to become a great big issue.
Water's
Great
the
big
new
issue.
gold
Gotta use
rush.
it more efficiently.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was
Very interesting.
Trent
Yeah.
Loos. We'll have him back because he's a favorite.
Can't wait.
Anyway, you've been listening to Food News and Chews, and we appreciate everything that y'all are doing. And thank you, Trent.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Good to see you.
Why do chefs choose Lyons Farm beef?
But when I get things in the kitchen, I can tell like right off the bat. After I get done searing it or put it on the grill or roasting it or baking it or frying it or whatever I'm gonna do, the second I cut into that thing, whether it's the resistance on the fork or just the way it kind of slides across the knife, it's gotta be right on from the get-go. And it seems like this beef does that every single time.
Lyons Farm beef, available at Critchfield Meats and lyonsfarm.com.
Now, the award-winning dishes enjoyed at Azure Restaurant and Patio can be featured at your next event when you order from Azure Catering. Our services include menu planning with our amazing food, event site location, rental equipment, linens, event staffing, and seeing to every last detail of your wedding, special event, or corporate event. Visit AzureCateringKY.com or call 859-327-7125 to start customizing your menu today.
Welcome back to Food News and Chews. And what are you cooking for us today, Chef?
I've got some great sirloin tacos we're gonna do. It's gonna be fiery seared. I've got a little bit of an orange and green tomato sauce. And then we're gonna put some buttermilk marinated onions on top. But first of all, we've gotta make a spice rub to make this be fiery and delicious
And
for
what
the
your
grill.
objective here is to show our viewers how you
Yeah.
can stretch meat.
Well, you know, back at the restaurant,
Costs are
a
going
lot of the guys come in with a little bit of meat. We'll throw it on the grill, and everybody sits around and feast on tacos. You know, it's just kind of part of
Yeah,
tradition
get a lot
down
of
in
different
Mexico. And we
flavors.
have a couple guys that work in the kitchen that are from there. So it's a community action thing, or a community kind of social way to eat. And I'm telling you, just something like this will feed 4 or 5 people.
Yeah.
So that's one way to stretch your meat. But anyway, to start the recipe, equal parts salt and pepper, cumin, cayenne pepper, sugar.
I guessed 1 out of those.
Right.
1 out of 7.
And this is ancho chili
Salt.
powder. And what this is, just a great little spice
do,
rub.
Do the dry stuff first.
The dry spice rub actually for your meat, which you want to just sprinkle on there and cake it on really good, both sides. Nobody
Okay.
likes any one-sided food, right?
It smells good. It smells
it does
real
smell
good.
So anyway, before when we were talking about food news, we put
Yeah.
some green tomatoes and a
Yeah,
jalapeno
they've been
on the
cooking
grill.
them
They've
all.
been charring, if you can see that over there. When they get done, they're going to look something like this. But the meat
Those look delicious.
has to go on there to sear as well.
Hey, Bill Best talked in one of our previous shows about how some of his heirloom tomatoes are actually green by they're ripe green.
Yeah, they're
tomatoes.
actually
These
bred
are
to be
actually
green and
have to
ripe.
be cooked.
These are raw green tomatoes, or
Is
the
this
ones that
different?
are just underripe.
Yeah.
And what we mean by that is
And
they're not
eventually
ripe
turn
at all,
red.
but they get a little sour and a little bit tart. A lot of people love them. I think they're great, especially when you get a nice char caramelization like that on the grill, like you see over here.
One nice innovation here too is I didn't know this before. You can actually grill these vegetables along with other vegetables and give them that nice,
I
like steaky
love
feel.
grilled vegetables. It completely changes the dynamics and the flavor of just regular vegetables versus steaming or sautéing,
Yeah.
where it gets kind of a little bit too soggy sometimes. Grill gets that nice crust on the outside, especially when they're good and fresh. So we got to make a sauce.
What are we doing?
We got to make a sauce. So this is going to be a green tomato and orange sauce. I think it's really bright for beef.
You're going to put all that in there, and then you're going to do a Vita Mita Vegemin.
So what you need to do is take your green tomatoes and put them in the blender, along with a little bit of
marmalade.
Orange marmalade.
I guessed it. See, I'm going to become a cook after all.
And then a couple cloves of garlic, a little bit of orange juice.
You do a
fresh
lot
squeezed.
of orange juice.
I do.
squeezing
I
and
think
stuff, you do that a
you
lot.
always want to use fresh fruit and squeeze
Yeah.
into it. The bottled stuff just doesn't hold a candle when it comes to making a recipe or making food nice and fresh. So we've got those ingredients in there. You need a nice little
Yeah.
bunch of cilantro. Just rip it off at the stems
Did you
and
grow
throw
that
it
in
in
back
there.
of Azure?
No, this did not.
There's
It's a little
enough
bit,
growing
I
in the
have
back of
a
Azure
tough,
to
I have a
feed
tough
an
time
army.
growing cilantro in Kentucky. It just seems to not work well. Then we're gonna take this whole charred jalapeno and throw that in there as well.
Oh, boy.
So you need a high-speed blender, something like a Vitamix or anything that'll handle the job. And at that point, you're just gonna put it on and turn this guy on slow and kind of slowly increase your speed.
Very high pitched.
You see how
Lucy, be
quick
proud.
that goes.
Look
You
at
get
that.
a bright green salsa, and that's
Let me smell it. Yummers.
Pour that into
smell
the bowl.
Jalapenos.
it's beautiful, bright and green, grassy. It's going to be great for the tacos. I'm going to go ahead and taste for seasoning.
What do you think?
It's perfect. Don't even need salt or pepper. So anyway, we'll flip our beef, let that get charred on both sides. We'll grill our tortillas and put together the dish.
Oh man, that looks good. Fabulous. Hey Jeremy, you know what? We'd be better off if we do more prepackaged, halfway cooked things, because consumer research shows that people actually don't want to cook all the way from A to Z. They want to pick up in the middle. Maybe they don't want to buy the pasta. Maybe they don't want to do that, you know, and
It's the old
Wednesday
hamburger
comes.
helper trick, right?
Yeah,
Where you
or
just buy the
add
meat
chicken.
and add
You
the-
see a lot of those packaged things in the grocery stores.
Starting to, and I think I of course want people to eat non-processed foods whatsoever and just fresh and stuff. But if you have the choice whether going out to a restaurant all the time or preparing a meal at home, I think just the important family aspect of cooking
that's
a
the
meal,
coming
sitting
together.
down, eating it, and talking is very, very
Yeah,
important.
coming together.
Yeah.
Okay. What else are we going to do here?
Well, we have to let our meat grill up, and then we can slice our tacos and present them.
Okay. Okay, Jeremy, what now?
Okay, we're going to take some tortilla shells, the corn ones, and throw those on the grill just for a split second while you take your meat off the grill. And the thing is about tacos
Ooh,
is
that
it
looks
goes a
good.
long way. You
Yeah.
just slice the meat very, very thin. You can see a nice sharp knife.
Oh, that's perfectly cooked.
And go ahead and do it all. You want to let the meat rest a little bit before you slice
Yeah.
it, but we're going to go ahead and rush this for television. So we've got a nice pile of greatly seasoned sirloin. Of course, this is
Yeah.
Lion's Farm we use. At that point, the taco shells can come off the grill. I used to do two. I usually do two stacked right on top of each other. That's the most traditional thing. And a little bit of beef on each one. And then you want to use lots
those
of
could stretch,
lots of
yeah.
our green tomato and orange sauce. This is the really, really good stuff.
That is good stuff. I had to have a taste.
A
And now
nice
what?
handful of buttermilk marinated red onions.
Perfect.
They are wonderful. Let them sit as long as you can. If you can go overnight, that's even better. And just fresh cilantro
Yeah, 'cause
sprigs.
flavors kind of come together when you
I
do
think
that
so. And
overnight
the
kind of thing,
the
like soup.
enzymes kind of cook the onions too and make a nice texture.
Yeah.
Anyway, you can just kind of set these up
Okay.
piggyback right next to each other.
Now, where's the hot sauce come in, bud?
And if you so prefer, just a little bit of Cholula hot sauce on each one would be great, but we'll kind of let people season those up themselves. But anyway, that's a more traditional style of taco with the corn tortillas and fiery beef, just our version. You can get the recipe at foodnewsandchews.com. Hope you guys try this one.
And stretching the meat. That's what we're after.
Yeah.
We've been with Food News and Chews and saving meat. Thank you for being with us. We'll see you next week.